Okay, I am Mr. Carboni. I'm going to work question number 4 from the 2022 AP Calculus exam. This was a common question on AB and BC. I have not read the question yet. This is the first time I'm reading the question, so you get to watch me solve this in real time. And I may have to pause for a minute to process some of the questions, but let's see what we have here. So we have a table of R prime in centimeters per day. So ice sculpture melts in such a way that it can be modeled as a cone that maintains a conical shape. As it decreases in size, the radius of the base of the cone is the twice differentiable function r. So we now know that r and its derivative are continuous. R is measured in centimeters, t is measured in days. The table gives like values of r prime, blah, blah, blah. All right, approximate r double prime of 8.5 using the average. Oh, they told you how to do it? Oh my gosh. They never do that. What a beautiful, why'd they do that? All right, that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. They tell you in the question how to solve it. Nice people at College Board. So our double prime of 8.5 using the average rate of change of r prime would be r prime of, and they say to use 10 and 7, r prime of 10 minus r prime of 7 over 10 minus 7. You absolutely want to include a difference quotient in your work. R prime of 10 is negative 3.8. Negative 3.8. R prime of 7 is negative 4.4 over 10 minus 7. I'm going to write the difference quotient again. I'm going to stop there. I'm leaving my answer like that. Show the computations that lead to your answer and indicate units of measure. So on top, I subtracted r prime, which is measured in centimeters per day. In the denominator, I subtracted 10 and 7, which are units of days. So you could leave it like that. You could say centimeters per day squared. I am not going to clean up that answer because I don't trust my arithmetic. I'm going to leave it exactly like that. Number B, is there a time for which r prime of t equals negative 6? Now, I tell my students that if you are ever asked to justify that the derivative equals something, to start with the mean value theorem. However, for this particular problem, the function given or the table given is r prime, and they're asking for values of r prime. So we're actually going to go mean value theorem, and the answer is yes. And I'm going to start by establishing, because for the intermediate value theorem, you have to establish continuity. And so I'm going to say this. I'm going to start by saying r of t is twice differentiable. I'll write it out. Therefore, if something is twice differentiable, then that means the function and its derivative, r prime of t, are continuous. So I establish continuity first. Then I'm interested in achieving a value of negative 0.6. So I'm going to say this. R prime of 0 is negative 6.1, which is less than my desired value of negative 6. I'm also going to say that r prime of 3 is equal to negative 5, which is greater than my value desired of negative 6. Therefore, r prime of t must equal negative 6 for some value. We don't know where. For some t on the interval 0 to 3. Double check the question, make sure I answer everything. Is there a time for which r prime of t equals negative 6? Justify your answer. Therefore, yes, I have answered the question and I'm happy with that. Number C, moving on. Use a right Riemann sum to approximate the value. This is nice. Use a right Riemann sum to approximate that value. So the antiderivative from 0 to 12 of r prime. I'm surprised there's not like an interpretation or something. They have not yet asked you to interpret your answer in the context of the problem. All right, so this would be approximately. It is an approximation. So if you write equals, technically you are angering the gods, and you don't want to do that, but it typically is not held against you on AP scoring. And so a right Riemann sum, so my first interval from 0 to 3, my change in x is 3, and the height would be negative 5.0. I'm just going to write negative 5. My next interval from 3 to 7, that is an increase in 4. Your delta t is 4, and the right side function value is negative 4.4. My next interval from 7 to 10, that's delta t of 3, and the right side function value is negative 3.8. And lastly, from 10 to 12, that is a delta t of 2 and a function value of negative 3.5. Do they ask you to indicate units? No, just find the value, approximate the value. Okay. I'm leaving my answer like this. Again, I don't trust my arithmetic, and that is an acceptable answer. You do want to show 4 products. So I know you know, I hope you know, that 3 times 5 is 15. But if you write 15 and you don't actually show the multiplication of base times height, it could be held against you. So make sure you show all the computations in your Riemann sums, and similarly in your trapezoidal approximations if that shows up. All right, so the height of the cone decreases at another related rates problem. The height of the cone decreases at a rate of 2 centimeters per day. So I'm going to make a note that dh dt for this cone, and because the height is decreasing, that will be negative 2 centimeters per day. At time t equals 3, the radius is 100. So my radius at time 3 is 100 centimeters. The height at time 3 is 50 centimeters. Find the rate of change of the volume of the cone. So find dv dt at when t is 3. Okay, so my volume formula, they typically give you the volume of a cone, and they did this year, pi 1/3 pi r squared h. I need dv dt, which will use a quotient rule. We'll use a product rule. Will be 1/3 pi, going to leave that out. The derivative of r squared is 2r dr dt times h. And I'm just going to stick my dr dt on the right side. Plus, leave the r squared alone, and the derivative of h is dh dt. And they are asking us to find dv dt when t is equal to 3. So dv dt when t is equal to 3, so such that t equals 3, is going to be 1/3 pi of 2 times my r is 100, my h is 50, my dr, dr, all right. So hang on, we're going to go to the table for that. Dr dt is r prime, so dr dt is going to be r prime at 3, and that is in the table as negative 5. So dr dt gets negative 5 plus r squared is 100 squared times dh dt, which they tell you is negative 2. And there is my answer. Find the rate of change of the volume. So they put the units in the question. I was double checking to see if they wanted units, and units are in the question, so we do not need to specify units. And there is my answer for number 4, the common question for A, B, and BC.